Thank you, Bishop Michael, for agreeing to be interviewed as part of this consultation. Have you been a part of all three of the consultations in London, in Dar es Salaam, and here in Toronto?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have. I've had the privilege to be part of all three of them, and they've been one of the, I would say it's one of the it'll be one of the highlights of my first 4 years of my episcopacy, so it's been a real privilege.
Why did you say yes to being involved?
Well, many people will know that Niagara was one of the first dioceses, not the first, but certainly one of the first to eventually bless same-gendered unions. And that was a long process over a number of years of dialogue and discussion within our diocese. And it was obviously very clear that this was a commitment that we had in terms of what we believe God was calling us to. But I think what was also made very clear in the midst of those discussions was that we were just as committed to our membership in the Anglican Communion. And so I was really looking for every opportunity. I had the opportunity prior to us taking that step to speak with the Archbishop of Canterbury personally about it and talk to him personally about what had brought us to the stage we were at. This just seemed to be another way that we could fulfill that commitment to our brothers and sisters in the Anglican worldwide family. So I welcomed the opportunity, and it's something I have never regretted.
What were your expectations as you came into it?
I have to say I had almost no expectation. I didn't know what to expect, quite frankly. I was quite nervous and suspicious, I would say. I wasn't sure what questions the African bishops would have of me and of us Canadians. I wasn't too sure what because the first meeting was at the Anglican Communion offices in London. I'm not even sure, we weren't sure what they expected of us or what they thought we were all about. And yeah, I think it was just, a bit of hesitancy and because we'd heard so much about, I think we had some misconceptions, as they did, about what the climate, the temperature was like in terms of the debate and the disagreement and so forth. So yeah, I was a little nervous and really unsure about what to expect.
What has surprised you in the course of these three consultations?
A number of things, really. I mean, first of all, just getting some factual information. I thought, that the vast majority of African Anglicans had a particular way of thinking about what we were doing here in North America. I thought there was a lot more hostility than what I found when I got there. What I found was really people who were seeking to, were really in the same boat I was in. They were quite anxious and not knowing what to expect. And really, to be honest, I was so surprised how within a very short period of time, a lot of that anxiousness and anxiety melted away. And once we began to talk about our context for ministry, we're all obviously very passionate about what we do, and very quickly we began to gel together. Doesn't mean we came to the level of trust that we have now and the depth of conversation, but it was very clear that we were both very relieved that we were there to encounter each other in a spirit of openness and in Christian love. And I found that almost from the moment we met.
Were there any frustrations given your expectations going in?
Very few. In each of the meetings, as soon as we began talking, you just kind of entered into the discussion, the listening to. I mean, once in each of the conversations, different bishops have been assigned to step up and talk about their places of ministry and so forth. And you just get engrossed in that so quickly, and you hear particularly when you hear the African bishops speak of their challenges, their lack of resources, and the things that they are faced with, and yet, despite all of that, the incredible passion and excitement and joy they have for what they're doing and what's happening, you just kind of enter into that, and it. So I mean, if I had any frustration, it would be that I wish more people could experience what I've experienced. I think if we could find a way to sort of expand this and to multiply these groups out, the Anglican Communion would be very different. And in fact, that's my hope, is that this can. There are other kinds of discussions and dialogues happening. I think if we could find a way to make more of them happen, we'd be very excited about the results.
You've talked about what you've learned, particularly about context. Are there other things that will be of value to you or your diocese or the Anglican Communion?
Well, I have to say that not just because of this experience, but many other things that have happened to me in my time, both in the diocese and at the Canadian church level and at the communion level, I have a strong sense that while this kind of encounter, this dialogue, has always been part of our Christian, our God's mission for us, that I truly believe that God is calling us to this work in a more intentional way at this moment in time, both in terms of the life of the Anglican Church and I would say the wider Christian Church as well. In fact, not in people of faith across the board. That has happened in my own diocese as we have tried to allow God to lead us and evolve a vision for our work together as in the Diocese of Niagara. The way that we've done that is to gather people together from across the diocese in various meetings, and I've had an opportunity to kind of share my faith story and my hopes and dreams for our work together, and I've invited them to share the same with me and with others of us who are in leadership in the diocese. And that process has allowed us to evolve a vision that we are following now. And I think that's the kind of model that God is calling us to in the church generally. It's what I call making room for the Spirit, for God's Spirit to speak to us, to lead us. And it's kind of getting away from, one of the bishops in our consultation said it was kind of like the Mary and Martha story, that, you know, now is the time to kind of sit and be still in the presence of God, and as we hear God's voice in each other, and the time for doing it may be another time right now, but this is the Mary moment, if you like, for the church, and I think there's some real wisdom in that. So that's, I think, a learning that that this kind of dialogue needs to happen at all levels of the church, or in all aspects of the church, and the more we can the more we're going to find God working through us.
So you do see that this process is helping us to learn to live together with differences?
I think from the point of view of our consultation here, there's no question about it. There have been many times when the Canadians have shared pieces of information about, for instance, what's happening here, what our context is like, and the same with when the Africans have done the same thing. There's been these kind of aha moments where we had no idea, where the information that we had was just plain and simply wrong, or the stereotypes. I don't think there's nothing that can replace sitting face to face with someone and actually seeing the passion or the frustration or the joy in a person's face to kind of to bring that story home to you. And we certainly have learned a tremendous amount. The other thing about this consultation is that in this gathering there are bishops who have had an incredible amount of experience in the life of the communion, which for myself, I came with very little knowledge of that. I was at one Lambeth, but I came into being a bishop with very little experience of the larger church. And to hear some of them speak, it's been just a privilege to sit at their feet and listen to the insights that they have. So yeah, I think there's so much that we can take away from this. Mm-hmm. But the breaking down of the misconceptions and yeah, I mean one incredible moment for me in these whole three gatherings. In the first meeting, we were at Lambeth Palace meeting with the Archbishop of Canterbury, and each of us were to go around the room and say what was one insight that we had learned so far. And one of the African bishops said to the Archbishop that I really had no understanding of the issue of homosexuality and why the Canadian Church had the position, or at least some of the dioceses had the position that they hold. But he said that when I heard the Canadian story of the challenges and the work that is being done with First Nations people, he said it makes more sense to me now why the Church would be more sensitive to people that they would see as being marginalized in any walk of life. And when he said that, there was this pause that came over the room, and you could see the Archbishop, was quite taken by that statement. And it's those moments, and there have been many of them in our consultation, that are, I think, real gifts.
Thank you. You've sketched a real sense of the positive signs that have come out of this consultation. And you've personally given me a sense of hope for our Anglican communion.
I think that's one of the greatest gifts. When I share what I've done with my diocese, I see people being very encouraged and feeling far more hopeful about our future, and that's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.